Let's make planting this year's garden a lot easier with the Planter app. This app is packed full of features. It has companion and combative planting, which are indicated by green and red circles. It has a simple drag and drop interface. It has 80 plus plants and thousands of varieties. All the info is needed to grow veggies, including when to start seeds, transplant, and harvest, the ability to create custom plants and varieties, a growing guide with in-depth articles to supplement the quick info in the app, not to mention that you can view it and use it both on your PC and on your mobile device, so you can always be planting your garden on the go. This app is used in my garden year-round to plan the upcoming seasons, reference the last year's seasons so I know when to rotate, and it also helps me to learn more about companion planting using the visual cues. When you create your garden, it's going to be based on the dimensions, and each block is going to be a square foot. I've had a lot of fun using this app, and the Planter app, which is spelled Planter, is available in your app store on both Google and Apple. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and plan your garden, and use the link below to get a discount on the Planter app.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds, and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
These technical difficulties are not going to stop us, and we're not going to grow in drugs, everybody. X means insert your own vegetable, so there's that. So we're going to talk about why we are growing a certain vegetable, and we have our chosen few based on price, nutrition, or even taste. So this should be interesting. What do you think, Batavia?
I'm in it. I'm in it to win it.
Are you?
Yeah. What's the prize at the end of this?
What's the prize? Mm-hmm. You get the satisfaction of knowing that you are decisive in what you grow. How's that?
I'll take it.
Winner.
Give me the trophy.
And just so you guys know, if you'd like to support the show, you can come check us out on Patreon or Apple subscriptions, and come join our Facebook group on Backyard Gardens Community Garden. We'd love to see you there. What's your first one that you like to grow based on these categories or other categories?
Cucumbers. I'm not quite planting them as of the recording of this, but they were one of the first things that I grew in one of my first gardens. I'm going to add ease to the list.
Get out of my head, lady.
Back then, it's comfortable here. Back, 14, 15 years ago, cucumbers were less expensive. The price point isn't what it is today. I think if I get cucumbers $2 for $1, I'm winning, and the taste is absolutely not the same. A cucumber tastes much better from your garden than it does in the store. I still buy them regardless, even in the off season. So I don't have a lot to offer for nutrition on this particular vegetable. But I'm never making homemade pickles from the cucumbers I buy from the store. So that's also one additional benefit. In addition to just eating it with a little bit of vinegar, adding it to some part of a summer salad, although lettuce isn't necessarily coming out of my garden much in the summer. So yeah, cucumbers.
Yeah, I grow them, and I mean, we can make an ever expanding list of why we grow something, but for the texture too. I mean, my wife, she'll buy cucumbers from the store in the wintertime, and man, they're just mushy. I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean? So, they are fairly easy to grow. I mean, the easiest part about them is it's one of those plants that you literally can just go stick a seed in the ground. You don't have to start them inside, or you're welcome to if you'd like, but it's not necessary by any means. So I think that's the ease factor is a good one. And I got to say, based on you being in my head, I need to get a mover to come in and move that lazy boy out that I have supplied you so you can get nice and comfortable in there.
Yeah, it's a chase though, because I need the full to be able to extend the full length. I was going to say, like, if you're having an okay cucumber year, you probably still have more than what you really can use.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a prolific crop until disease hits. For me, it's primarily powdery mildew. I fortunately haven't had issues with cucumber beetles or anything. So yeah, but by then I'm okay with, being done with the plant when that powdery mildew hits later in the summer.
Yeah. My first one's going to be sweet potatoes. It shouldn't be a big surprise, but, for me, it check marks every single box we're talking about here. It's cheaper. If you do it right, you get more. But it's cheaper. They're definitely nutritious. Great source of fiber. For us, they're based to a lot of meals. I think personally, if you get the right variety and you grow them, it's not that they necessarily taste better than coming from the store, but you don't know exactly what you're getting. If you like a creamy sweet potato or something like that, you can control that more based on the variety that you grow. And then the other thing too is like the curing process that you go through. You can ensure that you're getting the best cure out of it, so you can get the sweeter potatoes maybe than you can in the store. Because a lot of times in the fall when they come into the store around here, you can tell that they've been rushed to cure, and you don't really get a good sweet potato. And I mean, they're easy to grow for the most part. Because unless you like to eat the leaves, which I don't like to eat the leaves, so don't recommend it to me. Thank you. I appreciate your opinions. But if you don't eat the leaves, you don't do anything but just wait 100 days and then dig them up. Yeah. I think the complicated part is in the curing process, though.
Oh, I look at the curing bit of just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
For me, in my space, I think it's a great crop. I think that around the holidays, so when most people are harvesting their sweet potatoes, grocery stores still are running sales. But I think it kind of goes back down to you don't know what you get, and so I think the way that you prepare them also ties into it. If you're eating the sweet potato in a more natural way, without not all of the, good butter and sugar and cinnamon and nutmeg. If you're not whipping up a sweet potato pie with all those things, then the quality of the potato really, really matters if you're using it for a baked potato, baked sweet potato or something. I have had mixed results when it comes to starting slips. A lot got away from me this spring, and so I didn't even start slips, and so I'm hopeful that I'll find them in the stores. And if I don't, it's not going to be something in my garden this year, and I'll be disappointed. But, sometimes you got to learn the lesson the hard way. Get on it, girl. I think that the one asterisk I'd say is you really need a really hot 100 days, and you need soil that is pliable.
Yeah, you do. That's an issue I ran into last year, which we're working on. So I'm actually... my sweet potato slips are coming along. As of today, I have 6. I went ahead and repotted them. I pulled them off the potato and I repotted them. And so right now I put them in 6-packs because the best year I ever had, I actually found a 6-packs of sweet potatoes and planted rooted slips in the ground, fully rooted, and did really well amongst every other person telling me I would never do good with it. So I'm doing that again this year, and I'm like you, I don't have enough sweet potato slips, so I'm hoping that I can find some. I'm not going to go crazy ordering them, I don't think, but I do think I want to change my variety up. I've been growing Georgia Jets for the past couple of years, and I think I want to try some Carolina Rubies because they're supposed to be more creamy. So, I'm going to give that a shot, I believe. And plus, if it's a Carolina Ruby, more than likely it'll grow better in my area, I'm thinking. So, it's something that I want to test out this year.
Yeah, I was looking back on my sweet potato harvest from last year. I still haven't grown enough that I feel like to make sweet potato pies for the holidays, but that's okay.
I had my first sweet potato pie this year.
Oh, did you? Did you enjoy it?
I did. So I don't eat nutmeg. I'm allergic to it. So we do have a workaround for it, which is ginger, believe it or not. It does pretty well the same thing. And I told my son and I ate it, and we looked at my wife and I said, can we not have pumpkin pie this year? Can we just have sweet potato pie? So we're actually we're growing pumpkin pie pumpkins this year too, but you never know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I think last year I learned that there is a difference in pumpkins. You know, I guess traditional pumpkins that you may see on people's porches aren't normally the ones that people make for pumpkin pies. I know people do what they do, you know, but
Batavia just sent me a picture of her sweet potato harvest, and I counted 6 date night sweet potatoes.
Well, you know what? That's such a great, thank you. That's such if I could grow sweet potatoes and harvest them in July, anyone that's watching me online, well, listen, if anyone that's watching me on the socials, you'd get a look at them. But by the time I get to October, like the video footage and the photos are few and far between. This is the 3rd year that I think I've not shared my sweet potato harvest. I'll have to embed it into some video or some post or something. But I was really pleased with this year's harvest, and sweet potatoes are a thing that I've really enjoyed growing and learning about, because I didn't necessarily think that was a thing to grow in Chicago. So the zone doesn't matter because I'm pulling them out before it gets to freezing. But for those that are curious, I'm in 6A. But I just thought, again, southern areas, that's where you're going to get the best sweet potatoes from. And I'm not saying that mine are the best, but I figured out the spaces in my garden that I believe crops like sweet potatoes will do well.
Say that one more time, please.
I'm going to read the closed caption so I could say it exactly as I said it. I figured out the spaces in my garden where I believe sweet potatoes are going to do well.
God, that's
and it's not
so
every
important.
growing space.
Oh my gosh. Preach it. She's on the pulpit, everybody. My goodness, here we go. And by the way, I counted.
To tell you, hold on.
I counted 10 date night sweet potatoes. And if you don't know what a date night sweet potato is, it is a term that I have created for sweet potatoes that are big enough to share between 2 or more people. If you are so inclined to have a date night with more than 2 people, some of these potatoes will work for that. You be you. But, and I mean, just because not all of them are that big, I mean, based on what I saw there was a lot of decent sized potatoes, and it does take.
And I can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
So, just for the record, we are over talkers all the way through, so just deal with it. It doesn't take many sweet potatoes to make a sweet potato pie either. I was surprised about that.
I think I normally using a date night size, about 7 sweet potatoes for 3 pies is what I normally like. That's the minimum that I'll make. And so if I get 6 or 7 good sized sweet potatoes, that'll do it. When you add all the other fixings in, eggs go into them too, per my recipe, which is my grandmother's recipe, which is probably someone else's grandmother's recipe. So I think that, but back to the idea of the soil. And so I think that, the front yard garden, there's like 2 spaces, and I'm trying to go back to like what I did to those spaces. And I'll tell you on another episode, the piece that I figured out, I kind of stumbled into, and then compared to some of the other, garden spaces, the bottom line is the other garden spaces are probably a little bit more compact for the soil compared to, the places that I've now earmarked to grow them. But yeah, I hear you on the sweet potatoes. I'm going to move on to mine.
I had more to say, but that's okay. I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I don't have my recorder time up. Oh, yeah, plenty of time. Say more.
No, I was just saying, I don't even know now. Go ahead.
Okay. So this one, and some of these may be boring to y'all, but it's okay, because these are why I grow eggs and why young Ben grows eggs. Sweet bell peppers.
Boring.
And I'm using, I use that generally speaking. I'm going to capture like a larger sweet pepper in general. I didn't know that a sweet pepper was really sweet until I had one for my garden.
Yeah.
And that obviously, need to wait until it matures and it turns from green to red to really get the joy out of it. I can actually picture, this is probably 3 years ago, and even some of the peppers that I had grown before years back, I don't remember it being like notable. And I was making, I think, some pasta or maybe a salad or maybe both. And you eat a fresh pepper and I'm just like, this is it. So price is outrageous and has been as long as I can remember in any store. For any bell pepper, if you want a bell pepper that's not green, good Lord, sign up for a loan. So definitely it's a benefit if you're growing them yourself from a price point. I've had great luck with peppers in general. My bell pepper plants aren't the most prolific. Like I'm not getting 20 peppers from one plant, but that's okay. I just, sub in a bunch of plants. And it is one of the things that I use bell peppers in one of my favorite tomato pepper garlic sauce. It's a household item now.
Yeah. And it's very nutritious as well. So
yeah. It's just someone commented on a video recently because I must have said something like, I prefer to wait until they get fully mature. And they spoke about, well, it's not the same, but spoke about how it's easier to digest once they get to be fully mature. And I'm like, yeah, good point. And so then I did a quick Google, and it's like some people do have issues digesting, raw green peppers.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Just a little nugget there. You're not one of those people. That's the reason why it doesn't really float to the top.
I'm not trying to go down that path on this show, but I will say this. I'm just not big into the whole digestive thing. This is easier to digest. This is that. I don't know how I feel about that.
You prefer not to digest your food?
No. Well, I mean, I would prefer just to hold it in there forever. Have you seen me? Clearly, I'm holding it.
That's what I'm telling you. I came across a video from 2021 or 2020 or something. And to your point, clearly I'm holding some stuff in from the last 2 years, but go on.
Yeah. So
I digress.
But no, I don't feel like the science is there because it's so varied between people. So it may be easier for some people. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable taking a stance on it. Now, I do have some personal breaking news that I don't mind sharing if you want to take a second. So,
yeah, sure.
I recently have entered into a dietitian to try and get some of this food that I hold on to me very well off. And, everybody knows I've been vegetarian for a long time, pescatarian. And I have officially transferred over to a paleo style diet. So it's very interesting, though. And I bring it up for a reason because I told her, I was like, look, I eat out of my garden. And so we're getting meal plans given to us. And I'm like, I eat out of my garden. So I have to send her specifics on what I'm getting out of my garden to eat so she can make the meal plan because they don't know how to handle eating seasonal eating like that. You know what I mean? So it's like I get one meal plan and it was like, apples. And I'm like, apples aren't in season. Like we don't eat that stuff, And it's like, we were talking, I was counting. I have 2 peach trees right now. One of them is, and this is my next one, by the way, is peaches. 60 peaches on one limb growing right now on one limb. And, I told her, I was like, when it's peach time, we got to go hard. You know what I mean? But, in my area, for me, these peach trees are super easy. I plant them in the fall. I went to Tractor Supply and I got a plant for $20. I got a tree. I planted it in the fall, and the next year I got 60 peaches off of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really do anything to manage it, Now you do have to trim the tree appropriately in the off season, but it's a constant. I don't have to replant it. I don't even really have to fertilize it. I don't have to do anything. It's just growing peaches. And
how tall does the peach tree get?
So, the peach tree gets tall, but the way you trim it is different. So you don't want it to get tall. You want to trim it so it grows out. It's low and wide. So really you want it about 5 feet tall, but you want it about, 5 to 8 feet wide. And that's how you're going to get more peaches. So I like doing that kind of stuff. It's very interesting to me. But it's, I mean, like I said, like the first year, last year, we were like, look, I don't know how many peaches we're going to get, whatever. And I was watching it and I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of peaches. And this was only one tree. And I hadn't prepared myself for when to harvest peaches yet because I didn't know. So I read about it and they're like, when peaches are ready, they're all ready at once. And I was like, crap. So we harvested every single peach. And I couldn't eat them fast enough, so I had to can them. So now we're eating peach pies and stuff like that all the time. But, you know, it's just one of those things where you get like a whole lot off. I have a $20 investment. And last year we did the math and we ate $30 worth of peaches on the first year. And this year looks like it's going to be more and more. So I told my wife, I was like, I'm planting a peach orchard. I don't even care. Like, I'm just going to start putting in peaches everywhere because it's my favorite fruit anyways. And the taste is out of this world.
I told you before that I have a list of names for passersby. Like if I speak to someone that passes the front yard garden long enough where we exchange names, I put them in my phone in like a short description. And so I think I got someone wrong today. I didn't put her name because she always drives by and, you know, she talks from like, you know, her car. But I could have sworn she spoke about her mother. And so I try to be sensitive about a lot of things, you know, so, you know, I want to ask about our mother who knows what's happened in the last year. So anyway, what I asked her, I saw her for the first time this season because this is it, you know. I'm getting literally the welcome back messages from people that are passing by. And I said, hey, how's your mother doing? And she's like, oh, everybody's fine. So maybe you think like maybe she wasn't the same woman that I was talking to about her mother. But anyway, she asked me, you know, are you doing any fruit this year? Then I have to tell my sad story about, well, strawberries give me the flux every year. But I asked you about the size because, and I know this is almost a taunt, you know, so I was looking at apple trees and like the height of them and like, you know, some of the kind of dwarf size earlier in the spring, they had some at the stores. And so I'm thinking like, you know, one way to just get past this whole trauma of the caged baby and the tomato fiasco of last year is to plant something that's permanent there. And so, you know, I could probably do 5 feet, you know, but I don't know that I really am that interested in the trimming bit of it. I'm just trying to be realistic with myself. It
takes 5 minutes. You know, it's like you go out there in winter and like snip, 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 and it's done, you know. And actually, Illinois was a great resource for that. The 2 places I found that were really good, or 3 were Illinois, Minnesota, and North Carolina had really great resources available for. And I think, I mean, you know, as far as like a permanent food structure, I think growing fruit trees and bushes and stuff like that are a really good way. It's hard though to get enough off of like bushes and stuff to really maintain as fast as like the peach tree did. I'm curious to see how the one I planted last year will do this year in comparison to how it was the other trees first year, you know, so I'm curious to see how that works out. But yeah, that's something that we will be adding more of. I just have to be careful that I literally don't end up with an orchard and like have my whole garden shaded out.
So I think I'm going to add garlic. So we're bouncing around for the season.
That's fine.
Garlic to the list. And this is only the second year I've grown garlic, and this is probably the only plant that I'm like hopeful about. Like everything else, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Let's see. We'll see how my lettuce does, right? You know, but once I saw the garlic, the green come up, I'm like, okay, I got it, right? Price, I mean, it depends. It depends if you're purchasing, you know, certified garlic. It's pricey to come in, you know, the original year. If you're saving garlic and then replanting, that's your opportunity to save some money. So I don't think it's, you know, as cost effective in that first year compared to buying it. I think the quantity and again, only 1 year of growing it and to harvest, and the shelf life is uber impressive. And it is really a set it and forget it until next year. If you're planting it in the fall, it's been for me. I will fertilize, believe it or not, and then I'll wait, you know. So I planted mine. I was looking at my phone because I was trying to confirm where I planted what. And I'm like, oh, wait, November. And I realized I planted mine like after Thanksgiving this year. I was uber late.
Yeah.
And everything besides the containers came up at the, like sometime in March. They started popping up. And now everything that I planted is up in mid-April. And I expect to harvest them at some point in July. So I need a little bit of that balance of like, there's some things that I really have to baby and there are other things that I can just, be chill with.
Yeah. So my garlic wasn't expensive to start. It only cost me $3.
It was not?
No. I grew grocery store garlic. I went on a limb. I got cornered 2 years ago, early post-pandemic, everybody's freaking out. And I guess there was a vampire, influx and everybody wanted garlic and I couldn't find any. And part of that's because I have to grow it so late in the year here. So I went to the grocery store and I bought it 2 years ago. I planted it. I saved the biggest bulbs. And I did plant less this year. And I'm curious that, we're coming, it'll be another couple months before I find out. But I'm curious to see if like those puny bulbs that started so far, like last year, it was like 75% was like still small, but then 25% of them were large. And I saved the 25% that was large to replant. And if I can keep that going, if they will actually, because I've read that they will actually end up in years being like regular sized garlics. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see how it ends up this year. But yeah, it cost me $3 to get going. And if
there's that.
And if I wanted, no, I did buy organic garlic, and I can in my area. I have to grow soft neck garlic because that's what usually comes out of the store. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, I looked at the price of garlic in the on the internet, and it was crazy. $30-$40 for a bag of garlic. I'm like, come on, man, you ain't doing nothing but it's just garlic. Like, why is it so expensive? And the flavor when you grow it is absolutely superb compared to what you get from the store.
Absolutely. I think that it gives you a lot more control over what you're going to do with your meals and when. And because it's a shelf stable crop, I still have some garlic I need to check on now. Funny enough, I still have some garlic and I still have some onions. Remember the little bitty onions that we talk about? Seed onions. So I bought some of those and I've bought them year over year and planted them. And they produce like... The onions were slightly smaller than your cabbage. No, they were about like maybe a $50 size, right? But they held firm. They're still firm. I threw away 2, I think. But anywho, I think that flavor in that case is really important. And as I was preserving food last year, I used a lot of garlic, and I would have preferred not to have had to go out and buy those. That I probably would have even opted to not make some dishes just based on the amount of garlic. But yeah, garlic.
I'm gonna send you
give it a try. If you're not growing it, stretch yourself a little. I grew grocery store garlic last year and it was uber small compared to the other garlic that I bought from a certified seller. And so I didn't realize the concept of like with each year, the garlic size should increase, but I didn't do grocery store garlic this year.
Yeah, I mean,
it did produce, though, just to be clear.
I think it's one of those things when you get it from the grocery store, it's like immature and it's been sitting around a while, all that stuff. But, I mean, there was nothing easier than going to the grocery store, buying garlic, putting it in the garden, done. And this year I actually did something a little bit different. I stuck it in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks just to kind of give it an initial chill. I sent you a picture, by the way, of my latest cabbage that I'm waiting to harvest. Since you have jokes on me and my cabbages. Jerk.
I always have jokes.
You do have jokes. You be giving me a hard time. You're going to give me a complex.
Oh, no, you're fine. Oh, now we're talking.
Now we're talking all of a sudden. Here we go, people.
Look at that. But look at those 2 that looks to me to be the same exact size. But okay.
They're different varieties. Which is interesting. More to come on that because I'm trying to figure out my varieties for cabbages. I can tell you that Market Copenhagen cabbage is off the list, everybody. I'm tired of growing it. It's small. I do want to get big heads of cabbage, but I got to go through my seed bank. My next one is going to be, and it's another one that's just not very sexy, but it's green beans, because I get so many green beans off of so little effort. You know what I mean? The biggest effort is, it's just like okra. It's just picking it constantly. Go out there and pick it. That's the hardest part about it. But I mean, I just get so many green beans off an 8-foot trellis. It's ridiculous. So it's like one of those that's just constantly there. As far as taste goes, I'm going to be honest. I don't really see a difference. You know, we can a lot of them, and the benefits of canning them, it's neither here nor there as far as like, oh, we're saving a lot of money. But I've actually made myself start eating them a little bit more fresh, and there is a huge money savings when it comes to eating and buying fresh green beans. So there is that, because I just can't can but so much. I get tired of standing behind a canner at some point in the summer.
I meet you there with green beans, and I think the only note is the impact of not picking them on time, the impact on the plants. I had a stellar green bean year last year, and it really made me excited about green beans again. I have been growing a lot of bush beans, you know, the bush plants, and I just don't think that that's my jam right now. For me as a gardener, I often forget about the plants down there. Now, I've had a couple of years where it's like, oh, they did their thing, you know, the bush plants. But I really liked growing them vertically, the pole beans vertically. And so I'm going to do that this year. There are a handful of things that are really good in the garden, fresh. By fresh, I mean you may potentially cook them, but they're not preserved or anything. And string beans over a little bit of oil, a little seasoning. I mean,
it goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, like I would never have told my grandmother this, you know, when she was alive, but toss all of the green beans she ever served me. You know, like this was it, you know. So yeah, it's a good note. I'm going to leave off a couple that are obvious, and perhaps we'll do an honorable mention for them. I think that I'm going to do a bit of a cheat and say herbs as a category, and leave it at that when it comes to picking one, unless you make me. I think herbs are something I've come to enjoy growing, and I think it pushes me a little bit outside of my comfort zone when it comes to cooking, you know, and preparing meals.
So I don't know if your video is as choppy as mine is right now. But can I say something? And I want to say this in the most loving manner possible, but I told you so.
You did.
You used to hate the idea of it, but now listen to you. This is not the first time you brought up herbs either.
It's not the first time I brought up herbs, and the I told you so should have an asterisk, because I remember it very clearly. It was along the lines, and you said it multiple times, that, you know, what's a good crop to grow for a new gardener? What would you recommend? And your response was herbs. And I still stand by. Nope, that ain't it.
So I
think that's okay. I'll take the whole I told you so. I'm going to acquiesce.
I think we need to change the intro to the show. Hi, my name is Ben Gardner, and I'm with Batavia, the asterisk queen.
Well, I mean, but think about it. It came from a place where, outside of, you know, the seasonings that I use would be in a jar.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and while it's a bit more than salt and pepper, it wasn't a whole lot more. I mean, in the last probably 10 or 12 years, I started using garlic powder, you know, So, I mean, I don't come from a place where I was cooking with a lot of fresh herbs, you know, for years and years and years. And, I think it really can add a freshness to, you know, they say with decorating a pop of color, it adds a freshness to your garden. And when you're thinking about these other things you're growing, you know, I think it just makes sense. dried herbs, you probably are going to probably break even when it comes to, is it more pricey to grow them versus, or buy them versus grow them? It depends on the herb. Something like, basil, if you dry that, yeah, maybe. It depends on how liberally you use basil too. So there's other things like I've never been able to grow a lot of thyme. Not that I'm using a lot of thyme though. Oregano is one that I use often. Same thing. Like I can never get to the point where I've planted enough oregano. But I'm working my way up to it.
It's interesting because I'm glad you brought up the drying it and freshness and stuff like that and eating it fresh, because if you're one of those people that are sitting here and you're like, I got a jar of basil and it's good, and you've never grown it, the taste is completely different when it's fresh. Mm-hmm. It's not even it's not even up for discussion at all. Mm-hmm. I dry a lot of my herbs for the winter, but in the summertime, man, that freshness is it's unparalleled. It's unbelievable. Any herb that you can think of, it's totally different. And yeah, the price of a dried herb, I mean, you can go to the Dollar Tree and get dried basil, and it tastes about the same as your dried basil. So I don't know if you're really going to save any money there, but if you want to foray into the world of fresh herbs in your food, then it's a big money savings, because it's just outrageous. And it's like you can take a basil, cut off a stem, stick it in water, and you got a plant. It's nothing to it. So it's really easy to propagate. It's really flavorful. It changes your meals completely. I mean, you can grow a garden. You can have a 4x8 bed, and you can grow tomatoes. And I mean, what do most people grow? Squash and cucumber. Throw a basil plant in there, and then from that basil plant, you can create 5 different dishes off the top of my head easily. You know what I mean? It makes a difference in your food. So I'm up there with you on herbs, obviously. I think it's a great addition, and they're generally pretty easy to take care of. I don't really get a lot of pests or anything in them.
Agreed, and they take some abuse as well.
Well, you're supposed to abuse them.
Yeah, I guess fact or fiction. If you are a forgetful gardener, generally, I think basil is probably maybe the most finicky, just based on potentially the softness of the leaves. But all of the other herbs that I've grown, it's kind of like it will take a beating and keep on ticking. So yeah, thanks for the cosign on herbs.
I'll cosign on that one. And by the way, I do want to save a little bit of space in this episode. I'm going to give you a heads up for things that we will not grow. Maybe just like 1 or 2 each. You know what I mean? If that will work for you. I'm going to have to say cantaloupe is a big one for me. I'm just going to say melons in general. I went to a farm. I don't know. Let me get through this. So this is about 10 years ago. I went to a farmer's market, and a guy came up. I went up to a guy, and he was like, man, you want to buy this cantaloupe? He's like, I'll give it to you for $1. Like, it's got to go. And I was like, I don't know, man. I wasn't real big on cantaloupe or anything. And he was like, I was like, all right, I'll take it, $1, whatever. He's like, look, you have to eat it today, though, or else it's going to go bad. And I was like, all right. So I went home. I cut it open. Oh my gosh. It was like nothing I had ever tasted in my life. It didn't taste, you know how cantaloupe will have like a musky flavor when you get it from the grocery store? It was like pure sugar in my mouth. It did not even resemble what I had anticipated. So I started growing it, and year after year, it's become the same thing. It's, if you let it ripen really good, it's a totally different flavor. And I think for me, like the price, they're not overly productive. I think maybe on a cantaloupe plant, we'll get 3 or 4 cantaloupes off of it. But at the same time, that flavor is just something that I've never experienced from a store ever. I don't think it's possible to create that just based on how they harvest them and the way they have to ripen and stuff like that. And same with watermelons. Same exact story is, when you grow a watermelon, that sweetness is definitely there. Now, it's hard to grow them because there's a lot of disease. There's a lot of confusion about when to harvest that, which hopefully if I get to the chance to, I'll cover that later. Because it's really a visual thing. It's not really something that I can explain very well. And there's multiple ways to do it to tell, but when you really get down to it and you grow it, you'll figure it out. So, and there's so many different varieties that you can get different shapes and sizes and stuff like that. Like I've grown a 50-pound watermelon before. I don't want to grow a 50-pound watermelon because I can't eat a 50-pound watermelon. I need to grow personal size watermelons. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The only thing the 50-pound watermelons are good for is grease the pig. That's it. Do you know what that is?
So, yeah, because you've told me before. Yeah. So I gave you I don't know, because I feel like it's such a broad, like melons. I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of types of melons. Like I kind of feel like that's a cheat, although I just came with herbs.
Yeah.
So that was my pause. I've struggled. My melon growing has been hit or miss.
Yeah.
But every year that I've grown melons so far, it's only been like 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2022. And I believe 2 of those 3 years I've had a honeydew melon that's still the best honeydew I've ever had. And then the mango melon, which is a hybrid. The 1 year, that first year I grew them, I had my neighbor telling, she took some to work. I gave her some. She took some to work, and her coworker is like, is she growing those melons again this year? Like, I mean, it's one of the best things I've tasted, one of the best melons I've tasted. And so I've just in this moment recommitted the trellis in the front yard to melons this year, just in this moment, because it's worth it. I basically got like maybe 6 or 8 melons total across these 3 years that have been just that good. And it's worth the space. I'm growing them vertically. It's worth the hassle that they can be just to get a chance, for that goodness. So,
and that's the thing too, with the different varieties and melons, like, I mean, you can go anywhere. And I'm going to say that I've been very stern about my stance on this is I hate a honeydew melon, but I will say this, you have me on the fence in future years to consider maybe I'm on the 3-year plan for honeydews. I don't know. There'll be an asterisk next to that one too. How's that?
I think it do so well in your area because I believe a part of the problem I faced is the race against time.
Yeah.
Again, going back to how long the melons take to produce, how long when I'm planting them. So the gardener does impact it. The start that I get last year, I didn't have a quality melon come out of the garden. And unfortunately, if I go back, I had some false starts with my melons. This year, I'm going to start them indoors. Versus direct seeding, just to try to mitigate, the potential of something not germinating in the ground. Like I want to get ahead of it. But yeah, I mean, based on your weather, man, I think it's worth a spot somewhere in your space just to see if it's that good. It's the same thing, like you said, like whatever you're eating, whatever this cantaloupe you eat. We've joked about this, like the breakfast buffet type cantaloupe, like this ain't that, the fruit plate that you get, the fruit platter that they serve at like banquet type style, nope, this ain't it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to choke that stuff down. Once you've had the real thing, you've really got to start choking it down before you're like, I mean, it's hard.
It's like a doggy bone for humans or something. Like just,
it's hard to go to a public function sometimes and enjoy what's served to you. And I mean, I hate to say that because I feel like you're kind of, it's like snobby to say. But when it comes down to it and you really know what real food tastes like, it's unbelievable, not everything is like that though.
Well, not everything is like that. And it kind of goes back to that balance of, what really tastes better out of your garden compared to getting it anywhere else,
All right. You want to take the last few minutes and just talk about stuff that you just won't grow?
Yeah, you go first while I think of something.
Damn, I gave you a heads up. What's going on here?
Well, I was paying attention to what you were saying. I was enthralled in the conversation.
So there's not a lot of things that I won't grow. And it's actually, it's funny. I've said before, like, I won't grow X, Y, and Z, and now I'm growing them. For instance, like potatoes, onions, stuff like that, you know. Curiosity got the best of me. This year I'm going to try gourds, for an example. I have no idea how that's going to work out. But so it's like I say I won't grow them, but there could very well be a time in my life when I will start growing them. But one of them would be like a regular, like a jack-o'-lantern style pumpkin. I just, for the limited use, the amount of space, the amount of disease and pest pressure that goes on it, it's just, for me, I'm not worried about it. And there was a time when I was a gardener where I was like, look, I want the biggest thing out there. I got to show off. You know, it's like somebody comes over to the house, you want to have the biggest pumpkin or something. And I'm not like that anymore. I've gotten away from that and really tried to be more practical. So we've tried to grow them before. We've just had nothing but headaches, and it's just not worth it. So we've done winter pumpkins before, and we're doing them again this year, where that's like the pumpkin pie style pumpkin. It's very small. So what that means, and if you grow something and it's going to have a smaller fruit on it, you're going to get more off of that plant. Bottom line. And then, like, if you want to do, like, we paint it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be. So that's something that I just won't grow. And I'm probably fairly comfortable saying I'll never grow it unless I were to get like a lot of space. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah. I agree. I'm going to go ahead and jump on the bandwagon with that. I won't grow pumpkins in the space I'm in right now. It's just there are too many things that I could grow in its place. And it's not something that I even eat often.
Yeah.
Like, I may have some type of pumpkin soup or something, as, you know, that was a part of the appetizer at some restaurant or something, you know.
But that's a different style pumpkin.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I guess my point is, like, it's not even a vegetable that I eat often.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling thinking, like, when did I have pumpkin? You know, and so it's not on my list because of that. A close second, so I'm not saying never, but I think it's probably a space thing. I am growing a different variety of butternut squash this year, but your traditional, like, walnut butternut squash, I just don't think that I'm going to give that another try in this space. Again, I have a hybrid smaller producing fruit that I'm going to give a try, and I'm super hopeful about this year. But it's the long season, the battle with, you know, disease for the plants, you know, to get to the point of maybe getting more than I want, or maybe not getting enough. It's not high value of enough crop for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with, and I struggle with winter squash in general.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you said that, because spaghetti squash is another one I'll never grow again. I just don't like it. I mean, end of story. Don't matter. I just don't like it. So
I don't like it enough to dedicate space to my garden. This is actually a good opportunity to, you know, you have your seed swapping buddies. Like, I'd love to be able to trade something in my garden for maybe one butternut, like typical butternut squash, or one spaghetti squash, but I don't want more than one of them. You know,
yeah.
You know, like hearts for spaghetti squash. Period. I grew them one year, and I got a number of plants off that year. I grew them. I did start planting in June, so maybe it was a little bit later. You know, and so I was pulling green plants off green squash off the plants, and those things don't ripen after they're harvested. So there's that. So I haven't given it the full try, but I'm not that interested in giving it the full try. This one that I'm going to do this year, it's a butternut squash. Rave reviews from a flavor perspective, smaller producing plant or vegetable. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go, and we'll see.
Yeah, for me,
you have another?
I was just gonna say, as far as like butternut squash goes, I feel like they come fast and heavy for me, and then they kind of die off, and then they come to another period where they come really hard. And I don't know if it's like fertilization or how that works for me. But I definitely know, I mean, last year my butternut squash vine was, I think, what did I end up, I think I did hit the 30-foot mark. The vine was 30 feet long, and it was a rough 30 feet. I got to a point where I was like, I just want to see how long it'll get. Just because, it's late in the year or whatever, but we were getting a fair amount of squashes off of it. And I mean, I think my record that one year was like 32 squash off one plant. The guy was growing out of my compost pile. So it's definitely, it can be a high producer, but then I've had years where it doesn't produce anything. You know what I mean? I was going to say squash and zucchini, but like this year, the squash vine borer is a real headache. But this year I'm actually planning to go a little heavy on it because I really want to give it a go. I think I'm going to dedicate a whole bed to it. We'll see. And my butternut, I'm actually not growing butternut squash this year. I'm going to grow Seminole pumpkins instead. So we'll see how that goes as well. Which is, it says pumpkins, but it's the same thing, just in a pumpkin shape. Okay. So, I don't care for acorn squash either. Like, as far as those go, I like butternut squash. That's it. So I'm kind of gambling with this Seminole pumpkin. It better be good.
It's those vining crops for kind of the urban garden space. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
Like obviously we spoke of melons with great reverence, right? But look at what we gain, like kind of a life-altering experience of deliciousness, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there are a lot of other spaces in our garden that are dedicated to just quality and quantity, and I look at something like, melons, and they're worth it for me. Like I enjoy them just that much when they're good. And maybe again in a different space, I will look forward to having, what was the record? What did you guys get? Like 20 or 30 butternut squash a couple of years ago?
32, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That was abnormal though. I mean, I want to be clear. That wasn't like a normal thing for us. I was shocked by how much we were getting. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, we were harvesting it by the wheelbarrow.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to give away that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it stores for a long time, but we just got tired of eating it too. I mean, that was the other problem.
That's my exact point. You could get creative if you really wanted to or needed to, which is a different thing. Okay.
I'm surprised that cucumber one wasn't on your list. I'm not going to let it go.
I almost led with it, but that would have been too on the nose. Yeah.
I'm not going to let it go.
Well, you know what? I'm not having second thoughts. Never will I. Ever.
All right, everybody. So I guess the moral of the story here is grow what you like and find your reason for growing it. And we have, I guess we did talk on things that were like overly prolific, but there could be plants that you don't want to grow because you get too much off of it. And I'll leave you with one for me. Tabasco peppers. Never grow them again. Too many, too much work. No, thank you. But check us out on all our usual places, Patreon, Apple subscriptions, backyardgardenstv.com. Check out Batavia on her YouTube at Be Better Gardens. And check me out on Sandy Bottom Homestead. And until next time, we're going to learn to grow and grow for change.
See ya.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya.
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck!
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.